Good morning, my friends. I'm Pastor Ben Hayes from First Baptist Church, Dadeville, Alabama, bringing you our thought for the day on this terrific Tuesday. Other than my voice, it's a terrific Tuesday. Pray for me today. I got to get rid of this stuff before tomorrow night. Anyway, we're in Hebrews chapter 11, and we're picking up in verse 17. And here is an amazing thing. We're going back to Abraham. We've already talked about him once, but now we're going to talk about him again. He was in the roll call of faith because he was willing to believe God and leave his home and travel into places unknown, believe the promise that he was going to have a son and become the father of many nations. His descendants would be as the stars of the sky, the sand of the seashore, all of those wonderful things. And Abraham had faith in that. But here is probably the next level faith. I mean, if you can grade faith, I'm not sure that you can, but if you can, we're talking about next level faith, because I'm going to guarantee you what we're about to talk about, there are not many people in the world that would be able to do what Abraham did. Look what it says. By faith, Abraham, when he was tested, offered up Isaac, and he who had received the promises offered up his only begotten son, of whom it was said, "In Isaac your seed shall be called," concluding that God was able to raise him up even from the dead, from which he also received him in a figurative sense. Remember the story back in the book of Genesis? God said to Abram, after all of those years, he had finally had the son by Sarah, named him Isaac. He was going to be the one through whom the nation of Israel would come. And God said to him one day, "Abram, I want you to go and take Isaac up to the top of Mount Moriah and offer him as a sacrifice." Now, notice what Paul says here. Abram, when he was tested, this was a test. Now, I want you to understand something. God never tempts, but he often tests us. And it's not so that he can figure out what kind of faith we have, it's so that we can figure out what kind of faith we have. When we go through testing of any kind, understand it is not because God is unsure about us. He knows how we're going to come through it. He wants us to know what we're capable of. He wants us to know what we can withstand. So by faith, Abraham, when he was tested, offered up Isaac. So he took Isaac. He took the wood, he took the fire, he took Isaac, and he walks up the mountain. He leaves the servants behind, and he takes Isaac up the mountain. And on the way up the mountain, Isaac says, "Dad, we got the wood and we got the fire. What are we going to offer as a sacrifice?" And you remember what he said? He said, "Yahweh Yireh." God will provide. And so they get up on top of the mountain. Abraham builds the altar. He puts the wood on the altar. He takes Isaac, he binds him up, he lays him on top of the altar. And he's got the knife and he's about to plunge it down into Isaac's chest. And the Lord said to him, "Stop. I don't want you to kill your son. I wanted to see if you would be willing to be obedient to me. I wanted you to see if you would be willing to be obedient to me." And so understand what happens. Abraham takes Isaac off the altar, and over in the thicket close by, there's a ram whose horns are caught in the thicket, and Yahweh did provide. He provided the sacrifice for them. But I want you to see this. He who had received the promises offered up his only begotten son. He was willing to give his son to God. Now, here's why. Verse 19, concluding that God was able to raise him up even from the dead. He believed the promise of God so strongly that God was going to create from him a multitude of nations and a multitude of people, that he knew that if God took Isaac from him, he would raise him back from the dead. He would bring him back to life. That's the strongest faith I've ever seen in a human being. Because understand, it was supposed to be Isaac through whom his seed would grow. But he believed. He believed that God would do what only God can do, and that is give life to the dead. I wonder how many of us would be willing to do that. I'm not sure that I would. I hate to say that, but I'm just being honest with you. I believe that God's promises are true, and I believe that he could raise up from the dead. But here's the thing. It's a matter of realizing God's plan for our lives is perfect. Whatever he calls on us to do, it's for our good and His glory. But listen to me, whatever it is He calls you to do, be sure it's God that's calling you to do it. Be blessed. I'll see you back here tomorrow.